Hello, good evening, and welcome to the CADENHEAD Amateur Dram Antique Society tasting. Uh, I'm going to do the second of a trio of videos, which I'm going to look at Islay Cask Strength whiskey. Cask Strength because I don't have a Cask Strength Bowmore. In the second part of this, I'm going to look at the north of Ireland. We started off in the first video looking at unpeated Islay Cask Strength whiskies. And now we're going to go to the north and look at the distilleries in what could be termed the north of Islay. And I have four whiskies. I have a Bowmore, Living Souls Bowmore, 7-year-old at 50% ABV. So that's not cask strength. I have a CADENHEAD Kulila from 2007, 16-year-old at 53.4%. A Kilchoman Machir Cask Strength Christmas release from 2020 at 58.6%. And the new ARDNAHOE 5-year-old cask strength batch number 1, 60.9%. So we'll start off with the Bowmore from Living Souls. So this Bowmore Singapore is brought to us by the indie bottler Living Souls, and the whiskey spent 7 years maturing in a batch of second fill bourbon barrels before bottling at 50% ABV. It's not cask strength, but it's a higher ABV than any Bowmore that I've had before. Living Souls, I've tried a few of their releases. Worth checking them out. This is from a sample pack of their most recent releases. Contains some interesting bottlings. And you can see second fill bourbon barrels. So this is pretty much naked Bowmore, and it has lovely tears, absolutely beautiful tears in this one. And it's a sort of pale straw gold colour. And it's quite intense on the nose. It's quite tart, tropical fruit, grapefruit, or not quite ripe pineapple. And it's got light smoky notes. And a malty honey sweetness, vanilla, and a waxy note. It's very waxy, but you get pineapple, mango, and a sort of scraped vanilla bean. Very appetizing. And here's the thing. It's supposed to be from Islay, and it's supposed to contain peat, but you don't get any of that sort of nature in it. Let's see about the mouth. Maybe a wee pale whiff of smoke in the background there. Let's see what the mouth's like. And it's a delicious tangle of rugged coastal smoke, an elegant sweet vanilla, salty, sweet, and it's got a wonderful creamy mouthfeel. Then the yellow fruits, apricot emerges, along with honey, and the tart tropical fruit returns and becomes slightly peppery. But the yellow fruits remain a constant. It's super smooth, oily, and supple. And then you get a touch of lemon and that peppery kicking in, only to subside again in this sort of delicious, troppy, fruity wave. and the finish is long and smoky with that final glimpse of tropical fruit. I'll try a mill of water in this. Sorry about this. So Bowmore, it's sort of a medium peated, I think it's about 20 to 25 parts per million. Not getting a lot of that in this one. And with water you get some more juicy grapefruit, canned peaches, and a sort of salty sea spray. But you do get more typical Bowmore mineral and flinty peat smoke, vanilla, beeswax and honey, inky wet newspapers, and in the background just a hints of a swimming pool chlorine, with sort of malty cereal, tea biscuits, sourdough, and a sort of clay milk chocolate, hazelnut cream, toasted oak. It's very crisp and expressive bourbon cask nose. And with water, it gets a sweet, malty and mineral palate, salty and oily peat smoke, peach and lime, honey, very viscous and oily for its young age. Sorry about the tracking here. So yeah, when I finish some medium well tinned fruits, bit of pepper, and a sort of decent salinity. So this humble, naked 7-year-old refillable bottling easily bags all the newer official sherry distillery releases I've tasted in the last few years. If you're a fan of bourbon cask matured Bowmore, I think this would put a smile on your face. It's almost a dream of a Bowmore, almost unpeated, but with a tropical fruitiness that makes you want to walk merrily through a monsoon. And the alcohol level is just perfect. And blind, I would have guessed it was almost twice as old as the age statement of 7-year-old. I'm going to cleanse my palate with some Hawkhead glazed whiskey smoked cashews. Having a wee bit of trouble with tracking tonight, sorry about that. So, second round tonight, we're going to go to Kulila, which is of course at the top of Islay. And Kulila is one of the lighter Islay whiskies, lighter in colour than its powerful neighbours, but with a distinctive floral and peppery note, which complement the traditional Islay peaty flavour. So this is a CADENHEAD, and it's a 2007 16-year-old, distilled in 2007, put into a bourbon hogshead before bottling in August 2024, producing 264 bottles, and it's at 53.4%. So Kulila's whiskey has traditionally been used for Diageo's blending needs, but with plenty left over for other uses, and independent bottlers have been able to take advantage of this surplus. But recently, Diageo has become more protective of the distillery's output, making it harder to source casks, and even the official 18-year-old expression seems quite thin on the ground. Diageo's investment in visitor sites and premiumization strategy may in time lead to higher prices for new releases or even a new range. But thankfully, CADENHEAD has been able to provide continued access to Kulila's whiskey through their prior cask parcels and purchasing power. So let's see what we have here. Very pale colour. Bourbon hogshead for 16 years. Thinner tiers than Bowmore. And we do get a wee bit of warehouse funk, sweetness and sea spray with a good level of peat and ash. There's a distinct sweetness, something like orange fruit pastilles, bit of tobacco, dark chocolate and tar. But the alcohol integration is good, and with patience you get notes of strawberry laces and burnt wood emerging. And there's a herbal note reminiscent of chartreuse. I'm not sure if I'd have identified this as Kulila blind. It's salty maritime notes, smoked mussels, and a clean, vibrant peat with sweet, burning cereals and pinewood smoke. Candied white fruits, touch of antiseptic cream, and a coastal breeze which adds depth. And on the mouth, you get notes of s'mores, stump waffles, lemon juice, and iodine. And again, like the nose, the palate doesn't immediately suggest Kulila to me. There's a good amount of smoke and ash here that lingers with the sweeter notes. The mouthfeel is a little thin though. Sitting with it, I noticed dark chocolate and a little chili spice, cantaloupe melon, dark chocolate, hops, iodine. It's sweet and smoky with tar and a sort of burning earthy peat and smouldering wood smoke. But with all that, there's also sugary white fruits, chili flakes, and dark chocolate, which make it a somewhat more complex profile. And the finish is dry, burnt embers, ash, and lemon peel. It's quite creamy. It's long and slowly drying, and you get crispy bacon, smouldering wood, and vanilla pods. Could add a mill of water to this one. And it's got lovely viscimmetry. And with water you get the classic mix of smoke, peat and embers. An old log fire and salty black currants, cola cubes, aniseed and toasted pine nuts. And water enhances the smokiness, often does, and it highlights notes of rice crackers, vanilla beans, tarry ropes and honey. And the tobacco flavour persists, but the spice becomes more rounded and subdued. And there's an emergence of dry roasted peanuts. And as the whiskey sits and develops in the glass, its Kalila DNA becomes more noticeable. We'll try them out. And with water you get more embers. It becomes chewy with a touch of sweet smoke. Maple bacon, black pepper and quite sooty. And you get that coal bunkerousness, oily and fatty in places. And it becomes a little drier, featuring prominent notes of dried wood and hay. The mouthfeel is passable but tends towards the watery side. And water does seem to amplify the spiciness, particularly highlighting a raw ginger spice that dominates through to the finish. And you get fresh raspberries and a hint of cinnamon, but the dryness of the palate is a little distracting. And it is long and drying in the finish, still with a bit of smouldering, lots of vanilla. So this Kalila offers a well-rounded and characterful experience with its vibrant peat and rich flavours. And it's good, but it falls short of hitting it out of the park. It doesn't have the boldness of a young Kalila or the sophistication of one aging towards its 30s. Seems a bit stuck and unsure of where to go next. It's in a somewhat disappointing middle ground. It's not young enough to deliver a robust wallop of peat, yet not aged enough for the cask to impart the complexity needed to compensate for the diminished peaty character. So we'll cleanse our palate again. So now we're going to go a little bit over to the west of Islay, and we're going to have a Kilchoman Machir Cask Strength Christmas release. And I have a bottle of this one. You've got sheep with Santa hats on, and it does say non-chill filtered and natural colour in the bottle. This one's 58.6%, and it's quite a robust strength. It's 58.6, and was bottled in 2020, and it's a limited edition from Kilchoman, aimed specifically at the festive season. It's not a full-on Christmas release, but rather a cask strength edition of the Machir. And to give it that more holly jolly feel, the sheep on the label were Christmas hats. Now, of course, Kilchoman Machir is the distillery's signature peated single malt, peated at 50 parts per million, and it's a vatting of mainly bourbon and a few sherry casks, named after one of Islay's most spectacular beaches. Machir is almost 2 kilometres of sandy beaches, and it's certainly, if you ever visit Islay, worth looking out for. So Cask Strength Kilchoman from a few years ago. And again, it's quite a pale colour and has quite a thin tidally. And you get sweet notes of icing sugar and a touch of barbecue smoke. Some smoked barley husks, a vanilla essence, and a few floral touches as well. Some port stewed pears as well. It's quite elegant and composed. And you get a little bit of medicinal peat with some seaweed and mint, along with lemon, lime, wool, and some custardy, creamy, malty undertones. And it's quite clean and bright and not as intense as I would have expected, perhaps. You get the smoky peat weaving seamlessly through the vanilla sugar, candied citrus, ripe papaya, cocoa powder and ocean spray, a lemon zest with peat. It's much heavier than the standard Machir, and vanilla comes through soon after with hints of other fruit. So try them out. It's got a creamy mouthfeel and a sweet arrival, followed by a barrage of earthy smoke, chili peppers and white pepper. It's quite powerful, somewhat drying, but you also get notes of orange and milk chocolate and some hay and straw. And you get more medicinal peat with a sweet, creamy, buttery foundation and hints of lemon. The ABV starts to show itself a bit, but it's rather austere in its strength. Saltwater taffy, vanilla, mint and pepper with savoury peat. And then you get the darker notes of coffee bean, cocoa powder and roasted nuts. It's quite thick and oily with orange zest, and the peat isn't far behind, and it hits quite hard in a good way. There's no burn at all, likely to do how beautifully oily it is. It's rather nice, this whiskey. And the finish is lingering with an earthy smokiness and a gentle maltiness, a whisper of red apple skin. And the heat picks up again and it gets a touch bitter with some tobacco and vegetal notes. But the medicinal peat and sweet vanilla carry through, and there's some lingering menthol and ash. And it's long and long again, wet grassy peat, slowly fading into smoke and peppery spice. But it's lingering, I'll try a ml of water in this. And again, lovely symmetry on this one. And water tames the heat and brings out more peat on the nose. And the intensity of vanilla surges, balancing with peat. It lightens up, becoming grassy with light peat and hints of orchard fruits. Try them out. It's thinner, but fresher. And if you let it sit in the tongue, a slight oiliness comes through with hay and light fruit. And with water, the finish is a bit sweeter. It does reduce the length a bit, but only from very long to long. And it's fresher but fruitier, with the peat relegated to a supporting role, and the pepper going from black to white. It's still very nice. This is a cracking whisky with a complexity on the palate that's most unexpected. I'm not overly familiar with Kilchoman. I've tasted a few in a tasting set I had, about 5 or 6. But I think this is probably my favourite so far. It's a beautiful dram, which is very different with water. But it's not the same as the normal Machir. I prefer this neat, thick and oily whisky is my thing, but either way, it's stunning stuff. I hope they're going to keep Kilchoman cementing their place in the higher echelons of whisky producers. So I'll cleanse my palate again with some of these Hockhead whisky smoked glorious cashew. So I've only had this bottle for 3 or 4 weeks, and we're going to go to the newest distillery on Islay, ARDNAHOE. I tried the ARDNAHOE inaugural release about a year or so ago, and I really liked it. Very impressed. And this is ARDNAHOE 5-year-old cask strength, batch number 1, bottled at 60.9%. And ARDNAHOE cask strength, this is the box. I like the sort of austerity of the box and the information. No artificial colouring, no chill filtration, specially selected, aged for 5 years. Bit of tasting notes on the back, and bottled by Hunter Lang and CAOL Limited. I don't know if they mature and bottle on Islay. That's quite an important thing, I think, as we get more information about the. So I notice there's a QR code on the back of the box, which you could discover more about this bottling that'd be interesting to research. So it's composed exclusively of spirit matured in first fill bourbon barrels, aged for 5 years and offered at natural cask strength, 60.9%, no artificial colouring and no chill filtration. It says that on the bottle. So let's see. And you get coastal brine, earthy peat, and rich cocoa. And you get rich layers of dark chocolate and that coastal brine, the sea air, earthy peat smoke, and you get that subtle background of rich cocoa, hints of sweet vanilla and fresh oak. And this is 60.9%, but I get no alcohol in the aroma at all. At most in the form of a certain freshness. But I would never have guessed on the nose that this whisky had such a high alcohol content. Right, we'll try them out. And you get orchard fruits, herbal tea and salted caramel, sweet orchard fruits and balanced smoke, and hints of preserved lemons. It's full-bodied and robust, and it's got a vibrant tension between the sweet orchard fruits, apples and pears, and that salted caramel sweetness and the delicate herbal tea note. And the peat smoke is assertive yet well integrated, and it's distinct but not too smoky. You get greenish or vegetable, slightly bitter, moderately spicy, oaky black pepper, and a subtle chalkiness. Maybe a little wax somewhere in the very back. It's got a smoky finish with citrus undertones and dried citrus peels, bonfire smoke and sea breeze. It's long and warming and wonderfully smoky. And it concludes with a final burst of citrus undertones, like lemon peel, dried lemon peel and bonfire smoke. I'm going to put 2 mils of water in this. Y2 went 60.9%, and I did pour myself quite a large glass of it. Been enjoying it. And with water, it's got a very compelling nose. Sweet icing sugar, chocolate, oaky, mineral undertones, zesty lime, and a whisper of smoke. Try them out. And with water, you do get a slightly richer smoke developing. So a gentle reminder of its Islay heritage. But it's like all expressed with a level of sophistication that few others reach. And with water, the sweet, smoky character swells and takes centre stage. And it hangs in the finish with impressive persistence. If you're a fan of unblemished and straightforward very strong smoky whiskey. This will be a treat. And it's perhaps an underrated treasure from the ARDNAHOE distillery. And there's something about ARDNAHOE distillery that makes people on Islay say they are making the best spirit on the island. Might that be due to the slow mashing and distillation? The all important worm tubs, access to great casks. And this Distillate Faithful Cask Strength release is another fabulous show from the Hunter Lang family. A wonderful, delicious, and incredibly smooth whiskey, despite the high alcohol content. It's very easy drinking whiskey that spreads nothing but smiles and joy. So these have all been wonderful drams, and I think ARDNAHOE is more than holding its own in such stellar company. And I can understand why Ilias, or the opinion that ARDNAHOE is producing the best distillate on Islay. Thank you for listening.